Hello, and welcome to Caldwell County Today. I'm Paige Counts, Public Information Officer for Caldwell County. Joining me today, I have Cindy Akins and Chuck Benway from Caldwell Hospice and Palliative Care. Welcome.
Thank you.
And today we're going to talk about volunteers, the importance of volunteers at hospice, and your upcoming volunteer training. Cindy, why do you need volunteers?
For many reasons. Volunteers play such a huge role within our organization. They play such a huge role in the lives of our patients, our families, our team at Caldwell Hospice as an organization in whole, and then they make such a huge difference in their own lives. So for many reasons, volunteers play a huge role in serving our patients and families. We are also Medicare accredited, which means that 5% of our direct patient care hours must be given by our volunteers. And we, for years and years, and still do, exceed that number, exceed that 5%. So that's another reason that we need our volunteers. We also have our volunteers because they save us thousands of dollars. The amount of time that our volunteers spend with our patients is crucial. It helps our other staff members so that they can then in turn spend more time with our patients at another time. So for many reasons, we need volunteers.
Chuck, now I'm going to ask you, why do you volunteer?
It's a great question. Almost thought that very question on the way over here. I would say that it's in my DNA. I've been a servant my whole life, going way, way, way back. I've always tried to give back in some way. I mean, back when I was youth in church, years ago, before I got out into the real world, so to speak. But I've always had this gnawing in the back of my mind that I need to give back. I've been given so much, not just from this world, but I've been given so much by my Lord and Savior that I have to give back. And when I found out about hospice in and of itself, and also about the volunteers needed for our veterans, that came home to roost, being a veteran myself, that was something that I really could sink my teeth into, and I just had to be part of it.
How long have you been volunteering?
I think I'm in my 4th year now.
Tell me about some of the people you've met and families you've served and ways you've served as a volunteer.
Oh, that's a great question. We were just talking about that. Some of the people that I've had to serve, that I have served our country, as far back as World War II. I've had folks from the Vietnam War, from Korea, from anywhere in between. But some of the stories that I've heard, there was a veteran of the Marines who served on Saipan Island and also was on Iwo Jima to physically watch the flag go up. These folks are just true heroes. And to serve their families, in this time is just tremendous. But to be able to honor them one last time, because what we do in the Veterans Honoring Veterans program is to come in and honor them for their service. And some of these folks, especially the Vietnam veterans, have never had that, ever. And to be able to come in and honor them, you can see it. Some of them come to tears themselves. And I'm there with them because they deserve it.
I'm going to ask this one to either of you. In your Veterans Honoring Veterans program, tell me a little bit about what happens during that. Ceremony may not be the right word, but during that time.
Well, I'll speak to it since I do it. We get a chance, in the beginning to know them a little bit because of the information that their family shares with us when they're entering their loved one into hospice. But we come in and we get a chance to speak to them and ask them questions about it, and maybe we get some more information. but it's just coming in and being a friend to start with. And then we do a couple of things. We give them a flag, small flag, and I give that to them to hold, because that's the flag that they served under. Most of them, anyways. Some of them served under one that only 48 stars on it. So they have that flag. We have a flag pin that is either pinned on them or on their loved one. Maybe it's a spouse. And we present them with a certificate of appreciation for their service to our country. And I won't say that I started doing this, but I learned this from another volunteer that I served with, that salute them for their service. Because that's the ultimate honor, to be saluted and said, we really appreciate you and we honor you for this.
So it really is a touching time for both you as a volunteer, the patient, and their family.
Absolutely.
Cindy, do you need more veteran volunteers?
We absolutely need more veteran volunteers. We would love to have more. And we talk about mission moments a lot at our staff meetings and just throughout the week amongst our staff and our directors. And we're asked often, can anybody share a mission moment? Can anybody share a mission moment? And I can truly say that our veterans, every veteran presentation or ceremony that is awarded to our veterans is a mission moment. It is absolutely beautiful. And we just can't thank our veteran volunteers enough. We really can't. We try. But they're wonderful. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful presentation. And as you said, it's for the families just as much as it is for the patients. Mm-hmm. Our staff have cried tears. It's absolutely beautiful. Actually, I had a social worker call me this morning, and she said, "Cindy, I have to give you a mission moment. It's actually better than a mission moment. I don't know what you call it, but we gave she actually was going to give the presentation to a patient who is in the hospital, and the daughter was there, and also she was a Marine. The patient was a Marine, and she wanted to give her own father the presentation, so she did, and it was just I wasn't there, but I can picture what it was like, and moments like those you just cannot.
Can script that.
Yeah, it's just so yes, we'd love to have more veteran volunteers.
But it's not just veteran volunteers that have those mission moments. Many of your volunteers have similar experiences. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
I can, and I do want to say too that we have such a diverse group of volunteers from all walks of life, backgrounds. They come with different skills, different talents, and that's what makes volunteering so special. For the volunteer, for the patients, for the families, for our team. We simply could not do what we do without our volunteers. But yes, there are other opportunities. And I always like to bring a list with me. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over every one of them, but I don't want to leave any out. But we have many volunteer opportunities, and they're not all directly working with patients. However, ultimately, our patients are the ones that benefit. But we do have our inpatient care unit volunteers, which serve on our units, and our units being 4 lines in Hudson and our Stevens patient care unit in Lenoir. We have volunteers that serve on those units weekly, monthly, some daily at times, to spend time sitting with our patients or simply just helping our staff clean rooms, empty trash cans, fill water pitchers, that kind of thing. So we do have home care volunteers who go into the homes of our patients, and they provide either caregiver relief, respite, or companionship for our patients and our families. And that is one of our greatest needs, in addition to veteran volunteers, are our home care volunteers. We have 11th hour volunteers who come at the final hours of our patients, and they sit at the bedside with the patient or with the family. Sometimes it's the families that need our volunteers just as much, if not more than our patient at that time. So we're in great need of 11th hour volunteers, and those volunteers usually have served within at least a year's amount of time, 6 months to a year, as a volunteer, as a patient family volunteer, before they do step into that role. And then, of course, we do train our volunteers with certain who want to be 11th hour volunteers, some other special volunteers. We give them extra training for those things. So they're not jumping into it all alone, of course. We train them. We have clerical volunteers and reception desk volunteers. It's so important when visitors and families come to our units that they see someone there to greet them with a smiling face, and that makes them feel so warm and welcome. So those volunteers are very, very important. We have event volunteers that just simply help us with events that we have. We have a banquet every year. We have memorial service. We have grief camps yearly. So some of our volunteers serve in that way, and that also is very important. We have hairdresser volunteers. Our patients deserve and request haircuts. Can you imagine how special it makes us to feel when we get our haircut? So our patients deserve that, and we do have trained volunteers to do that. We have enhanced services, and these are services that volunteers help with that are special services. We have pet therapy volunteers who have pets that come into our units and stay with our patients for a limited amount of time. We have legacy volunteers who actually are trained to video and interview our patients, and those videos are then given to the families. Those are other really special mission moments that our volunteers and staff get to appreciate with our patients. We have music that matters. Some of our patients request music, special music, by artists that they love, and we actually have volunteers that make CDs with this music on them, so that's another enhanced service. We have visual music by the bedside. Again, trained volunteers and staff who have talent, skills that maybe they play an instrument or maybe they sing. And towards the final hours of that patient's life, then the volunteer can play this music and provide comfort to that patient. We have bereavement volunteers who make calls to our families after a loved one has passed to check in. And that's a really special volunteer also. Makes me think of a volunteer who came through training, and she wasn't sure what she wanted to do, but she wanted to be a volunteer, and she knew that might be something that she wanted to do, was to serve in bereavement. So she ended up sitting with a widow, went to the home and spent hours and hours and hours with this individual who they grew to love each other and know each other so well, and just formed this friendship that who knew? She wasn't sure, but they ended up having this wonderful relationship. So that happens a lot with volunteering. You're not sure what you're coming into, but you're going to benefit and you're going to help someone. We have ambassador volunteers. They are crucial. They serve as liaisons between our organization, Caldwell Hospice and Palliative Care, and then their congregation. So they provide information. They serve as a link between us and their church. Maybe their church is needing someone from our organization to come give a program, to just educate their congregation about our services. So ambassadors are wonderful. We have volunteer chaplains that assist our chaplains in serving patients, and then we have volunteers. We love our volunteers. They are in high school, and they're just precious. To see these teenagers with our patients, it just, again, brings tears to your eyes. If you can just imagine an opportunity for a young adult to see what it's like for someone to experience their end of life or approaching end of life. And not all hospices have volunteers, but we are fortunate enough to have volunteers. So those are just some volunteer opportunities that we have. I've covered quite a few.
Chuck, when someone asks you about your volunteer experience,
And I said I didn't really know what to expect when I went to volunteer. I went in with the attitude that I wanted to be a blessing to folks, and I hope I have done that. But what I did not realize or was aware of or even thinking about it was how deeply I would be blessed in return. And every time that I volunteer with a patient, or every time I volunteer, period, with hospice, it's that way. I am blessed far more in return than I ever give.
how many patients are you asked to volunteer with at a time, approximately?
Well, it varies. I mean, it's all how much you can handle. In the beginning, I would suggest, just doing one at a time. But as time goes by, you can figure that you might be able to do more. For example, if you're already going to someplace, like my office is in Hickory, so we actually do have an agreement with Conover Nursing, and so I was already going over there. I said, can you look in on another one? I said, sure, might as well. 2, 3. I think the most I ever had at one time was 5, but it was not a problem and not an issue. Very glad to do it.
Cindy, how do you balance the volunteer-patient relationship? I know that's a big part of your role.
It is, and we truly just try to put our volunteers' best interest at heart. We know their time is valuable. They have other things going on in their lives, in their worlds, families to take care of, grandchildren to take care of, jobs. So we want our volunteers to feel like their serving suits their needs and what they are looking for, and what will benefit them too. When we make assignments, we try our very best to look at the vicinity, to look at the location, as Chuck said.
Mm-hmm.
Where does the volunteer live? Where does the patient live if they are serving a patient? If they're delivering meals, how far are they going to be traveling? That kind of thing. So being a volunteer does require flexibility. We call volunteers often at the last minute. And I can say that 99% of them are, yes, I will be there. There's never hardly a question about anything really, except where do I need to be, how fast do I need to be there. But we really do try hard to make our volunteers feel comfortable. As Chuck said, he had 5 patients at a time, and some of our volunteers are seasoned, is what we call them, who have been with us for a while, and they actually serve as mentors to other volunteers who may be new and a little bit uncomfortable or just not quite sure how it is or how it works to be a volunteer. Even though they've been through training, it's not quite the same until you just get your feet wet and get in there. But Crystal Birch, who is our volunteer support specialist, and myself, we really do work closely together to try to make our volunteers feel comfortable and to want to keep serving. We actually have a volunteer that has served from the very beginning. She has served 39 years. This year makes her 39th year. And if that doesn't say something, a lot of our volunteers are brand new. We have 4 trainings a year. But when we have volunteers that serve that length of time, that says a lot, not only about the volunteer, but about our organization, and that they want to stay with us. They want to keep serving our patients. They're vested in our patients, in our families, and they have a true passion, because if they didn't, they wouldn't be with us. And we know that there are lots of volunteer opportunities out there, and all of them are wonderful in this community. But we are so blessed to have our volunteers choose to be with us. So I hope that answered your question.
It did. Do you see volunteers, as they get more involved with hospice change. Their roles change. Maybe they add another volunteer opportunity in this list, or maybe, do you see that a lot?
Absolutely. And I will give you an example. We had a training that ended the week COVID began, if you will. So this one particular volunteer wasn't quite sure, again, as I mentioned earlier within another incident, what he wanted to do as a volunteer. And I could just tell all through training, getting to know him, that he was a people person. He liked to kid around. He was a good listener. He was very jovial. So I thought, I think that we can put him to work. And I say work, not really, but he might be a great volunteer to serve at our reception desk in Hudson. So the only opportunity our volunteers have right now during COVID is to really serve at our reception desk, screening our visitors as they come in. They are not serving directly with our patients right now. Hopefully we think that will change. But, so I asked him if he would serve at our reception desk, and he's like, I don't know, I'm just not sure if I'd be good at that. I said, well, let's just give it a try. I think you'd be great. He is wonderful. He talks to those visitors when they come in. He laughs with them. He shows them where they need to go. It's as if he's been there forever. And so his wings have spread. And I don't think that he really thought it was going to be that way. We have had other volunteers who may have started out doing clerical work in the office. Once they get to know our team, once they get to know our organization as a whole, they learn more about Caldwell Hospice and palliative care, they do want to branch out and they want to spend more time with patients. So yes, certainly, I think that is something that is a surprise to our volunteers. Maybe not so much with us because we've seen it happen so much, but it's a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm.
How does someone become a volunteer?
That's very easy. First, they have to have the passion, but then they can actually just fill out an application online. They go to our website, or they can call us. They can call and ask to speak to me, and I will mail them an application. But they do fill out the application. They have to fill out a background check form, some paperwork, and then after that, they go through a training. It's usually a 2-day training. And this year or last year, we had 2 virtual trainings during COVID. Normally we would have our trainings at our McCurry Professional Center in Hudson. But now during COVID, we are having them virtually, which has worked out really well. They've been very well received. But it's a 2-day training, and they're coming up March the 16th and the 18th. Normally our trainings are about 16 hours over the course of 2 days. But because they are virtual now, we've condensed the training to squeeze as much of the information as we can in. But that's pretty much it. And then after they complete the training, then we have what's called a post-interview with myself and the volunteer. And we talk about ways that they may want to volunteer. We talk about their interest, their schedule, that kind of thing. And that's pretty much it.
Tell me just a little bit about what's covered in training. I know that it is massive, and I have actually seen the volunteer manual, and it is quite detailed. I'm sure it hasn't changed as much since I've seen it. It's probably gotten better, but it's a lot of information.
It is extensive, and we don't want that to scare away anybody. I have had, I think, just about every training I've been in, we have had volunteers say, wow, I cannot believe that all that happens within your organization. I didn't know this, I didn't know that. They learn about just about every aspect, they do, of our organization. Kathy Swanson, our Chief Executive Officer, starts out every single training, and she goes over the history, the philosophy, our mission, our vision, our values. She does an excellent job, of course, going over all of the history of Caldwell Hospice over the years. And our clinical director gives a presentation. Our social workers give presentations. Our nurses. We actually have a volunteer panel that also talks about their experience as a volunteer. So it is extensive, but it is so valuable. And I think that our volunteers not only learn about volunteering, but about, again, the organization itself, and which is great because then they can go out into the community and talk about our services and be ambassadors for us and advocates and reach out to the families that don't know about our services.
Chuck, as someone who has gone through volunteer training, what can you tell viewers about that training and your experience?
It was very enlightening. To tell you the truth, there was a lot of things, especially the clinical things that the doctor goes over. But the history of the organization was very intriguing. And the fact that you learn about that there are actually two types of hospice. There is the not-for-profit, which Caldwell is, and then there's a for-profit. And since then, I've also learned that the not-for-profit seems to do a whole lot better than the for-profit does. In fact, Caldwell has kind of taken over a couple of those areas because they didn't do as well. But that and learning about the other volunteers and about the volunteer opportunities are all very valuable in the training, and give you an insight into what you're in for and what you might be able to do.
Well, have I forgotten anything? Cindy gave me some notes before this started, and I haven't really used them, so I'm going to ask now, what have I forgotten?
Well, I just want to add that you don't have to have any, grand experience to be a volunteer with us. When you do become a volunteer, you're not left alone. You have a huge team that will be supporting you. All it takes is a phone call to call us, anybody on the team, to ask a question if you have a concern. So it's a beautiful experience. That, of course, I'm coordinator, so I am going to try to recruit volunteers, but it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be in this role, and every volunteer that we have in their own unique way is just very special, and we just simply cannot say thank you enough to all of our volunteers.
Cindy, I'm going to ask you, you have something beside of you
Yes.
that I'm going to ask you to share.
Okay. And I'm glad you did, because I would have forgotten. We do try to show these at our interviews, but this is a gorgeous, gorgeous, soft Lapkin that our volunteers make. And actually, not only do our volunteers with Caldwell Hospice make them, but anybody in the community can make them. We have the pattern, and we have given the pattern out to individuals. There are a lot of crafty folks out there who love to make these. These are given to our patients, our veteran patients, at our Veterans Honoring Veterans ceremony. So along with the certificate and the flags, the lapel pin, these are also given to our patients, and they are greatly appreciated. We actually have a volunteer that introduced these to us. She made some when she served at another hospice in another state, and so when she came on board with us, she said, "Do you all make the Lapkins? Let me tell you about them if you don't." And so she's actually the one that got us started. So these are just something extra special that we can share with our patients and our families.
Well, Cindy, I'm not going to let you off the hook yet. Tell us again the dates of volunteer training, your phone number, your website, how people get signed up
Okay.
to do volunteer training.
They may just give us a call if they're interested. Our number is 754-0101. Our website is www.caldwellhospice.org. And the training dates are Tuesday and Thursday, March the 16th and the 18th. The hours for the first day, for March 16th, is 8:45 in the morning till 2:15. And then on March the 18th, it's 9 in the morning till 12:15. So again, we've condensed that, so it's not a full 2 days, but If anybody has any questions at all, again, they can call me, they can go online and get all the information that they need.
And Chuck, I'm not going to let you off the hook. I'm going to wrap up this interview by you giving your sales pitch for why become a hospice volunteer. You're out there, you do it, you see the need. So how do you recruit other volunteers?
Well, I usually write these things down and rehearse them before I give
Sorry about
sales
that.
pitches. But this is a need within our community and in any community that's out there. And if you're looking for an opportunity to give back, what better way to give back than to those in our community who are at the end of their journey on this earth, where you can make a great impact and leave a lasting legacy for them, as things go on.
Thank you both for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
And thank you for watching Caldwell County Today.